Let's introduce a couple of the more useful editing tools in gCADPlus. We clearly need to trim things off a bit down here, and if we go modify, we indeed have a trim command. The prompt, if you look down on the command area and on the screen, it says pick the cutting edge. Imagine that as a guillotine coming through. So this line might well be used as a cutting edge to cut off this bit. So here's the cutting edge, and then right click and then knock off the overhanging bit. So if we repeat that, this line can now be the cutting edge, right click and pick that one. In the case of the adjoining line here, I think we would need a line, and we need to jump to the end point. I've turned those snaps off for the moment, so I'll do a single snap to the end of that line. Now I want to demonstrate one of the interesting features of gCADPlus, and in fact AutoCAD, on which gCADPlus is based. We can snap to a phantom point. One of the options over here in the, and let's drag it across, is the perpendicular to. So we can say make the line running down here perpendicular to that line running through there, and we're done. And then we can extend now, modify and extend. We're asked to select boundary. That will be the boundary. They're working in a very similar fashion. Now you might want to square things off even more by drawing a line horizontally. Let's pick line again, and we'll snap to that end point there, come across here, keep it horizontal like so, and then draw another line from now the intersection of those 2 points there, and make it perpendicular to that line there. And then we can eliminate some of these, so it's a trim, and this one can be the cutting edge. That knocks that little bit off. Repeat trim. This one knocks that little bit off. Trim again, this one here, and we can knock that off. And now we can remove that horizontal line, and there we have our path working to my satisfaction. Now we mentioned that extend command. These two lines, that one and that one over there, represent the boundaries of the site. So we can use that extend, which we have to call up again, modify and extend. We can say, well, the boundary will be that one, and right click and no. Repeat the extend, select the boundary. We should be able to select that one, right click, and the object to extend. There, I was hoping to have that come down like so. Maybe the gap is a little too, I'm going to try that again and just bring that one down like so, and then right click and repeat the extend. The boundary, will this one, which is in a sense a phantom one, and the line to extend is that one. That's still not working to my satisfaction. Come over here, this one and that one. So whereas that was working earlier in this one here, we were not getting satisfaction. There's another command which would work here, I think, which is modify and fillet, and select the first object or polyline vertex. So this line and that one, that squares it off, that line and that one. So you're filleting with an angle of 0, and that one works nicely. So I'm happy to have reached this stage of the design, and we're using a lot more editing tools. Well, let's return briefly to our mud map, and notice that in our discussion with the client, it was agreed that we'd put some sort of retaining wall through this area, and maybe there might be an opportunity for a shaded adult sort of entertaining area in that zone. So we want to put the retaining wall in there, and if we swing back now to our design, the retaining wall will run through this area like so. The relatively easy way of doing that, and now that you have opportunities to use the offset command, is to start and draw a polyline, and we'll start it from here, and we'll come in, and I've got polar on, so I easily get the horizontal, and I come down. I'm drawing the middle line of what will be an offset polyline. And then I'll enter and finish. So a little retaining wall might be about, say, 600 millimeter in, 400 millimeter wide, just a small retaining wall. So if we say modify and offset, and before I do that, of course I need to select these and make sure they are joined, and they are. So now I can modify and offset. I pick the area to offset, which is this one. We're asked for a specify through point so that we could just click, but if we right click and a through point, we can actually type a distance. So 200 millimeters halfway, that'll make a 400 millimeter wall. We'll see how that goes. So we specify a side, we click, and then here, and click again, and we can remove that line. So we're left with a couple of polylines now, and I would just double check our width. We'll go nearest here and go perpendicular to that one, 400 exactly. So we need to cap that. Let's do another polyline. Now I need to go do a series of endpoints. So we'll put endpoint on, and now we go line, draw. Where's line gone? Up the top, of course, there we are. I tend to use the shortcut L for line, and there, line again from there to there, and right click. So there's our polyline. We'd like to make it a complete polyline, so let's grab everything in it and right click and join. So now it will become quite easy to fill that polyline. That creates our little dry stone wall or little low wall. Now you might want to play with that a little. You might wish, based on what's going on the site, to move it slightly to give yourself more room, but it's going to be a small retaining wall, and to my mind we probably need to move it down a little, maybe to there, so that we can put some planting behind it. We can put some fill in there. I'd even move it again across this way. Not happy even with that. Let me move there and go back again. And that will enable me to do some planting through here and hold the level behind it, some fill behind it. And in this area here, we may well be able to put some sort of seating area that's well shaded, or some sort of umbrella in that area, and some flooring underneath it, some impervious fill underneath it. So it sort of is an area to attract people to it. quite possibly in summer. We need to establish and go back to our site notes and see the direction of north. This is a design for the southern hemisphere, so north is out in this area. We can now start putting in some symbols from the gCADPlus library, details. We want north points. That one will do. You can see how easy it is to sort through these. We insert it into the drawing and then rotate it. So we can easily spin it. North is that way. And scale it. That's too big. So we'll make it 0.5 and 0.5. So we're using our first symbol from our gCADPlus symbol library. And remember, a long time ago, we looked at a layout. So there's our layout tab, and there's our north point, there's our developing site. Well, we took the north symbol from the gCADPlus library of symbols. The client wants to put blue hydrangeas in a pot there, and we can use other symbols from the library. So if we go here to plants and then named, and we come in down here, I think there is a blue hydrangea or hydrangea blue. Here we are, hydrangea blue. Sorry, it took me so long, and we'll take it and it will insert it in the drawing. Now, all of the standard symbols that we provide in the library of symbols in gCADPlus as far as plants are concerned are drawn a canopy diameter of 1 meter in the case of the metric one, or 3 feet in the case of the version of gCADPlus that's used in the US. So we picked it up and we can pop it over the top of the pot. Let's zoom in a little. You notice it's a little bit slow. That's because this is a reasonably elaborate symbol, but it's anchored in the midpoint, and I think that's probably a little bit large for us. So we can just, as we did before with the north symbol, we'll just reduce its size and then copy it across. So we save enormously on our drafting time by using symbols and things from the library, but we can also use symbols from other designs. And this is one that I extracted from another design, and it's called Coffee Nook. And so we can pick it up, move it by its insertion point there, and we'll position it like so. So there we have a little table, a circular area with some hatching on it. If we edit it, it's a block, Coffee Nook, and if we edit it and click on it here, it's a flagstone pattern in the bottom and a little sort of abstract coffee chairs and table. So it's designed in this case to sit under some fairly tall planting, which we noted in the mud map, and I'll put this one down here at the bottom, and so we'll be able to put some planting along in the neighbour's property. It's effectively borrowed landscape there. So can you see that cannibalizing earlier work that you've done quickly and easily improves your design and adds detail to it? Well, as I look at the design at this stage, that little dry stone retaining wall looks a bit too massive to me. Let's use the measure tool. And you remember from there to there is 400. I'd like that, and I phoned the stonemason we used, and he would be happy to do 300 wide. So we can use our modifier and offset to get that easily adjusted. So we pick the object to offset, go down to distance. Now we're at 400, we want to reduce it to 100, so we need 300 for the, no we don't, we need 100 for the offset, and then point to the inside, and there we are. Now we can exit and then remove the outer one, and that looks a much nicer wall, gives us a much better placed little coffee nook